And I said, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? She said, she's gone. And she was in a panic. I was in a panic. I'm like, call 911.
Yeah.
She's like, I did. We've called them. They're here. And we thought.
Feel her, or have you heard her? Any moments?
Yeah, a little bit. She's resolute and strong. Quiet strength, quiet faith, but hard fought. She's funny and a little mischievous, I would say, in her humor. She's a noble creature.
So Savannah has done her first interview, and of course the whole world is watching. But I don't know about you, but after I watched the interview, I have a lot more questions. There's more questions than answers right now. And I'm going to tell you about it. Stay tuned. Fugitive TV. Welcome to Fugitive TV. I am your host, Marcel, where we take a look at cases and we take a look at them from a different perspective. What we do is we look at them from, hey, my perspective. I was once on the run from the law for about 15 years. I lived in different countries under different names before things started to catch up to me and I had to turn myself in. And now I am a motivational speaker. I have this YouTube channel. I look at missing people cases. I help locate missing people. I also help locate, hey, sometimes other fugitives, or I give a different light on a situation that maybe somebody else is not seeing, all because I have prior experience of doing something. Well, we are going to talk about Nancy Guthrie. This is probably my 30,000th video on Nancy. Of course, because she hasn't been found yet. The 84-year-old mother of Savannah Guthrie has not been found yet. Now, thank you guys that's been supporting me and also watching me during this whole story. You know, I have brought a lot of things to light, so much that my old YouTube, I should say my, not YouTube, but the, I should say episode that I put up yesterday, which exposed, pretty much Tina, the Iranian lady, and everything she did. You know, they removed that. And I had to make another video today explaining why I think they removed that, because they didn't really tell me. So I had to, you know, figure out, I think this is why they removed it. And a lot of you people are agreeing with that, thinking that, hey, I probably exposed too much information, you know, and getting close to the target, maybe getting close to solving this. I'm not sure. But right now, what we're going to talk about is Savannah Guthrie's interview. A lot of you guys asked me, sent me emails that I watched the interview. Yes, I did watch the interview. I watched it today. I actually was listening to it and watching it while I was in my car. And after the interview, there were some things that was cleared up.
Because the back doors were propped open, you know, and that didn't make any sense. We thought maybe they came and there was a stretcher and they took her out the back. But her phone was there and her purse was there and all her things. And it just didn't make any sense. So, you know, Annie and Tommy had already called all the hospitals, but then I'm like, I'm going to call the hospital. So then I started calling the hospitals and the police were there and talking to her at the same time. And it was just chaos.
So for you guys that's been following me, I have a few sources that is out in Arizona, out in Tucson, okay? I reach out to a lot of people all the time. A lot of people respect my story and a lot of people respect what I have to say. And because I guess I'm not coming off as some idiot or dumb person, they feel that they want to give me or help me out, okay? So because of that, I'm able to get and reach out and get a lot of people to respond to me. That ends up being a source as long as I keep them anonymous and things like that, right? Well, one of the people I have been talking to, okay, does work in the Pima County's office. And one thing they did tell me, if you guys been following me, I said for a fact that they went through the back door, okay? And I think I've been saying this maybe the last 3 weeks or something like that, 2 weeks, I can't remember, but I've been saying it for a while. He told me it's a fact they went through the back door. Well, Savannah just clarified that. She said the back doors. She actually said doors. So not one, doors were open. All right. So she said the back doors were open. And I said from the get-go that I believe they went through the back because the front has a metal bar, a metal gate door on the front of it. And if you ever tried to break in one of those, it makes a lot of noise. It's almost impossible. Now you can't break through it or break it, but if you try to break into somebody's house, you're not going through that. You're going through a window, a sliding glass door. You're not going through the gated door. It just makes no sense. You're wasting time. You're going to be dumb and you're going to get caught. So you don't do that. So from day one, I said the person who was in front of the camera, okay, no matter what they were doing, there was already somebody inside of the house handling the situation. And this person was just in front. Now, we don't know if this person was in front of the camera on purpose to throw us off, to seem staged, because, hey, some of us are looking at it now like, hey, this looks a little staged if you ask me, okay? The weapon's in the holster don't matches in the front. You're bringing these leaves, putting flowers, it looks a little staged. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if it was, okay? I'm just repeating what people tell me all the time. And when I look at it, it does look a little staged. Now, I don't know if it's staged to the point where the perpetrators are trying to throw people off that part, I don't know. A lot of people still, have Tommaso and Annie on their radar. I don't blame them. She was last seen with them. So I do not blame them. Do I think Tommaso did it himself? No, I don't think he did. Because if he did do it himself, think about this. Nancy would know who he is. So if he did do it, he couldn't let her go. He can't let her go. She knows who he is. Okay? So if anybody did it that she personally knows, they cannot let her go. That's the one thing people need to think about. Meaning, if it was somebody she knew personally, I'm sorry to say it, they would have to terminate her, delete her, whatever you want to call it. We can't say the M word on YouTube because they want to flag channels and things like that. So we have to say the poor word of unaliving. They would have to unalive Nancy if it was somebody she personally knew, because even if it was for ransom and the person got paid the money, they're not going to just deliver Nancy alive so she can be like, yeah, Johnny did it. Johnny who blows my grass, or Tommaso did it. Your brother-in-law. They have to put her down. There's no excuse for that. So some people need to realize that if it was somebody she knew, they would have to get rid of her. Now, another thing she said, speaking of ransom notes, she talked about the ransom notes. Now, I don't know if you caught this, but she said, of course, we know more than one ransom note came through. She didn't say the fake ransom note. She said some of them were fake. So how many of them were sent that we don't know of, or how many of them that were sent that were read to us by TMZ that were actually fake? And she said she believes 2 of them, or they believe 2 of them, were real. Now, I did an interview. For you guys that want to go back and look at some of my old videos, I did an interview with a person who was doing life. Actually, I wouldn't say interview because I didn't put his voice out there. I just called him up, or he called me up from prison because he's doing life, and I was able to ask him some questions, all right? All he did was abduct people, kidnap people. That was all he did. Now, he's from South America. He came up to America and did something, and now he's spending life in jail. But in South America, his job was to kidnap and abduct people for one of the cartel organizations. Now, one of the things he did tell me was he said that sometimes when they would abduct people, okay, they would abduct them to unalive them, all right? So they would abduct to unalive, but at the same time, as icing on the cake, they were also allowed to hold the body for ransom from the family or the loved ones. So in other words, they would get hired, or he would get hired to abduct somebody. He would get his money from whoever hired him. And then as almost a tip, he was allowed to hold the body for ransom. And he was able to do whatever he wanted to after that. So he can hold the body for ransom, and he can lie, say whatever he wanted to do. And he would make extra money doing that. Now, I'm wondering if this is the case with this one, because she said 2 of the ransom notes are real. Now, I just got finished telling you that I don't believe it was somebody she personally knew. And even if she was somebody she personally knew, now I mean the person at the front door that we see in the camera, right? Or the person that went through the back door. And even if it was somebody she personally knew, they would have to do what they have to do to unfortunately delete her. But were these ransom notes the icing on the cake? If you get what I mean. Was it their tip? Did these people already get paid? Because if you ask me, this is not random. No, no siree. I've already stated that a long time ago. I believe whoever was at the door, whoever was at Nancy's house was sent. Okay? They were sent.
And disbelief.
Within hours, Savannah was making the long journey home to Tucson. You saw Annie and Cam when you got to their house. Tell me about that moment.
Just disbelief and hugging each other. Yeah. And I think we were on the phone with the sheriff and trying to, really make clear from the very early moments, Annie and Tommy were saying this isn't that case that you are used to where someone wanders off. She can't wander off. Mm-hmm. My mom, she was in tremendous pain. Yeah. Her back was very bad. She was trying to, on a good day, she could walk down to the mailbox and get the mail, but most days not.
I believe if somebody else who's controlling the strings, who is the puppeteer master, and they were sent to her house to do what they had to do. Now, were they paid to go there and do what they have to do? Most likely that is the way the underworld works. Were they allowed to maybe hold the body and get some ransom? Probably, because that's what the one guy told me that I did a phone call with, and that was all he did. I asked him how many people he's abducted. He said many. He wouldn't give me a number. Okay? And there were some questions I knew I couldn't ask him because I didn't want him to get into, even though he's doing life, I didn't want to incriminate him on some other things because I still have to keep my integrity as a journalist. All right. Now, the other thing that Savannah talked about was, of course, she blames herself. All right. She blames herself. There was one question she asked her brother Cam, was like, do you think this is my fault? I found it interesting that Cam said it possibly, it could be your fault. Now, I wonder if that conversation went more into depth on the phone, right? I wonder if they talked more about that. Because think about this. Was it my fault? Yes, it could be your fault. But what did you do? You get where I'm going? What did you do? Did she say it could be my fault? And he said yes, and he left it at that? Or did she run down some things like, was it my fault? Do you think maybe because I, interviewed those people with the Epstein files, maybe? Do you think of this? Do you think maybe because I married this man who was a Clinton fixer? I'm wondering if there was more to the story of her and her brother talking. I feel there was a little more than just, do you think it's my fault? And he goes, possibly or maybe. But what is the fault? You get what I'm saying? What's the fault? I think that part got left out of the interview, and I think on purpose. A lot of people don't know this. When people do these interviews, a lot of times they will, let's say, give them a list of things that they can't discuss, can't talk about, can't say. A lot of times when they do these interviews, you also have to submit the questions that you want to ask before they even allow the interview. A lot of people do this. Matter of fact, hate to go off topic and talk about politics, Kamala Harris, if you want to do an interview with her while she was running president, she would give you a list of things that you couldn't say. And then on top of that, you have to give her a list of questions you're going to ask. That was how she ran. All right. And some people didn't like that. But I'm just giving you an example of some people when they do interviews, especially celebrities. They will do it all the time. Now,
so there was no wander off. And the doors were propped open.
Yeah.
And there was blood on the front doorstep. And the Ring camera had been yanked off.
Yeah.
And so we were saying, this is...
Do something.
This is not okay.
Yeah.
This isn't... something is very wrong here.
Yeah. Did you guys talk about what possibly could have happened? Like, what could have happened? What went down? Did you?
I think my brother, I mean, my siblings are so amazing. My brother, you know, he spent his career in the military and worked in intelligence and is a fighter pilot and is brilliant. And he saw very clearly right away what this was.
Yeah.
And even on the phone, when I called him, he knew.
He knew.
And he said, I think she's been kidnapped for ransom. And I said,
Yeah.
what? Yeah. Well, why? What? And then, I mean, it sounds so like, how dumb could I be? But I didn't want to believe. I just said,
Yeah.
do you think because of me? And he said, I'm sorry, sweetie, but yeah, maybe. But I knew that.
I'm wondering if there were some things they can't talk about, because if I was interviewing her, there would be a lot of questions. One question I would have asked during that part is, what do you mean your fault? Why do you think it's your fault? What did you do? Now, for those of you that's been following me for a long time, okay, and you know my personal story about me being on the run for 15 years, and knowing a lot of things. And I have a lot of people who are new here, okay? And thank you for joining and also subscribing to me. I really appreciate that. But I have a lot of people who are new here that don't know my full story. I had a 3-year-old son, okay? He passed away in a car accident, all right? And when this accident happened, when I was getting into all my trouble, I was actually it was at that time, they don't really have a much anymore, but it was a boot camp for non-violent prisoners for their first time and things like that. So I was actually going through that at the time he passed away, all right? And they call it survivor's remorse or survivor's guilt. And when it happened, I blamed myself heavily. Even though I was not there, I wasn't even the one driving the car, I blamed myself because I felt if I never would have gotten in trouble, I could have been there maybe to watch him do something. He never would have been in the car. And until this day, I still wake up every day of my life, and I still have some sort of a survivor's guilt. Like, why wasn't I put in that situation to try and help or anything? But I had to do what I had to do, unfortunately, to put me over here. You know, so it's a blame that you have. So I understand where she could be coming from, or where she is coming from, by having this guilt as in, is it my fault? But at the same time, when I was saying, is it my fault? Was it my fault because I was in this prison boot camp? Was it my fault because I chose to do this and get into trouble and be taken away from your life? You get what I'm saying? So as an interviewer, I would have asked her, what do you mean your fault? What did you do to make you think it's your fault for your own mother to be kidnapped? That's all I have to say about that one, because I felt that it should have been opened up a little more. Now, maybe she wasn't allowed to open that anymore. And the other thing that I realized during the interview was she never really came out and said, Tommaso has nothing to do with this. As the interviewer, I would have asked her that question. I would have said, hey, there's a lot of speculation online about family members, because they see the FBI going in and out your sister and your brother-in-law's house. The car got taken away, you know. Now, there was an issue with the car. The car got taken away. And I saw even people commenting on my channel that they had the car for a long time. one of the reasons why the car was gone for so long, because the car was shipped up to Virginia. They took the car apart, and when they took it apart and they tried to put it back together or something, they messed around and messed up the electronics. So they had to send the car back to the dealership so they can fix the electronics part of the car. That was one of the reasons. What they're saying is why they had the car so long. Now, yeah, I would have asked her, hey, there's a lot of people online. There's videos. I made one about your brother-in-law. Do you feel that he's not to blame for this? Because she already came out and said, hey, I think I'm the reason why my mom was taken. But what about anybody else? Do you think Tommaso did anything? I would have asked her that. You realize that question was not asked? And the question was not asked, but she never said anything. To this day, none of the family has really came out and said, hey, leave him alone. He didn't do it. We know he didn't do it. Nobody's really came out and said that, if you noticed. This is the first missing person case I've come across since I've been doing this channel where the family is just so quiet. Actually, I take that back. The second missing person case. The first one was Celeste and David. You know, Celeste, the 13-year-old that was found in David's front. David was the famous singer that they're doing the grand jury on right now and trying to get him on charges. Her family never came out. Even when she was supposedly missing, her family posted one missing poster in a year. But behind the scenes, come to find out from a source that I know, the family was getting benefits. So the family knew where Celeste was at the whole time. That's why they weren't concerned. And that is possibly speculation, allegations maybe, why the family has not still to this day came out and said anything against David. Because if they do, all hell can break loose on their part, because then they can get exposed for maybe accepting benefits for David from letting David run off with their 13-year-old relative. Now, I'm not saying this is the case in the Guthrie situation, but I've noticed the family has not done much of saying anything. There's been no search organizations. She talked about how Nancy had a lot of friends. The friends aren't even out there searching. Why are the friends not even out there searching? The neighbors are not out there searching. What is going on? Every single missing person case I have done, okay? There's been search parties where there's been my friends, family, neighbors, even strangers that's flew out of town to search for them. Now you got some YouTubers out there and some streamers, but all they're doing pretty much is streaming. They're not really searching, they're streaming. You got one guy out there, a couple guys out there with some drones and stuff, but there's really have been no search organizations. Matter of fact, the Cajun Army offered to search for Nancy, and Sheriff Nanos, this guy, has said no, which I'm gonna have a video on Sheriff Nanos and everything he's done in the past, including beating somebody up with his flashlight while they were handcuffed. Yes, I'm gonna get into him too. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be a video about him. But still, what's going on? So, don't get me wrong. I do feel empathy. I feel everything for the family. I do, especially Savannah, because it's her own mom. So I feel, yeah, this shouldn't have happened to Nancy. I feel more empathy for Nancy than anybody else because I feel she was actually innocent. I feel she was a victim of what somebody else did, possibly. And because of that, she's no longer here. I don't think she's alive. Now, the source that told me about the back door, okay, also told me that one of the suspects is most likely not with us either. And that's why we don't have nobody calling in for that $1 million reward. I'm gonna tell you something, people. Criminals, when they have a lot of people in an organization doing it, there's always more chances of somebody telling you to either get lesser time, to get some money, or for both. Saying goes, when you do a crime, do it yourself, all right? Because you got to tell on yourself. But when you have one person doing it with you, say there's two people. Let's say there's two people that took Nancy. The one we saw on the camera and one inside. right? So if somebody tells on you, you automatically know who told on you. There's only one other person that knows, all right? You get 3 people involved. You go to jail. You find out somebody told on you. Now there's 2 people. Well, which one told on me? Was it Mike? These are just examples, people. Was it Mike or was it John that told on me? Now, when you have more, you got 5, 10, 20 people, and you're the one that gets snitched on. Now you got a whole group of lists to go. Wonder which one told on me. Wonder which one told on me. When I got into trouble, when I did my little, what I just told you about, the boot camp situation for the prison, I started what I was in trouble for, which is actually in my book, Rare Redemption, which is the book is done. It's just going through the editing process. So everything is in here. My whole life, everything. I have nothing to hide. Everything's in here, okay? And I'm going to let you guys know the date when we're ready to drop it, all right? I'll let you guys know. But when I got into trouble, I was in trouble, right? In the state of Colorado. I started, which at that time, okay, was the county's biggest car theft ring or auto theft ring. We weren't taking cars from people at the grocery store or jacking cars from the parking lot. What we were doing was we were getting cars from dealerships. The dealerships were in on this, and we were taking them, transporting pretty much to another place, getting paid for them, dropping them off, and that's what we were doing. I did that for a short amount of time to make some money to try, because I was getting in debt because I lost my job and we were about to get kicked out of our apartment. This is when I had my son I told you about. So at the time, he's only 4 months old, 5 months old. So me being young, seeing this quick money, let me do this, make some money real quick, all right? So I can take care of my situation and my family at that time, right? Idiot move on my part. I know it is. Well, to make more money, I started recruiting more people. First, it was me, one other person. It got to 6 or 7 individuals. When I stopped, okay, because I stopped, I told them, hey, you guys can keep going, but I'm out. I made enough money that I needed. I'm out. They kept going. They kept going for months, like 6, 8 months or something like that. And then finally, when one of them got caught, one of them, because it ended up being even more people than that one person told on me. And I wasn't even doing it no more. But he told on me. And he told on me just for some lesser time. And the amount wasn't even that big. It was not that big. I think $2,500 or something like that. It wasn't even that big. So you have this $1 million reward, okay? And nobody has came forward yet to say, hey, I know something. I know where Nancy's at. If I can show you where she's at, if I can tell you the details of what happened, can you promise to give me either a lesser sentence or put me in protective custody or something and give me that $1 million? So it makes you wonder why nobody has came up to claim that $1 million. I said from the start, that they should have put up the $1 million. That measly $2,500 reward when Nancy first went missing, I laughed at that. I said, this is a joke. This is a joke. $2,500 y'all offering for somebody to snitch on somebody that got kidnapped out their house? Ain't nobody telling for that. It doesn't work that way. No, sorry. I thought that was I thought it was an insult because I was like, Nancy's life is worth $2,500. No, but that was just me. One of the other things I always thought that was weird about this case was almost every single time I did a case of a missing person, which I've done a lot now, they give a description of the person, height, weight, eye color, hair color, any tattoos, any piercings. They describe what they were last wearing, okay? They described all that. But with Nancy, we didn't get a lot of description. You realize that? We didn't get what she was last wearing. We didn't get what they think she was last wearing. Now, in an interview, Savannah says that she was taken while she was wearing her pajamas and no shoes. You would think that Sheriff Nanos would have at least told us this. Like, hey, there's an 84-year-old woman out there with no shoes and pajamas. You would think that that's a detail that they could have told us. Now, could it have helped? We don't know. But still, why couldn't we get at least that? Like, hey, she was in her pajamas. Now, my next question is, how do they even know that she was in her pajamas? How do they even know that she had no shoes on? That is my next question. I got two theories with that, possibly. One theory is, did they take account of her shoes or something? You get what I'm saying? Did they know exactly how many pairs of shoes she had? And they were like, okay, there's no shoes missing, so she was gone in her shoes. Do they know exactly what type of pajamas or the pajamas she was wearing before she went to bed? Were they always the same type of pajamas or something? How do they know? Next theory is there more video that they're not telling us about? Is there video of her being kidnapped or abducted in her pajamas and no shoes? Was there footprints of her getting up? Anything like that, okay? Of her maybe walking across the floor of no shoes on. I would like to know, how do they know exactly that she had pajamas and no shoes? And if they do know that exactly, why hold that from us? That's what I would like to know. But I watched this interview, yes, and there were some questions after I watched the interview, like, hey, what about this or what about that? But you guys let me know what you think. Did you watch the interview? Let me know below if you watched the interview. Also comment below your city, your state that you're watching this from, and how long you've been following me. Please support the channel by joining the membership. I got a membership video coming up soon, okay, for members only. And I am also going to be redoing that video that got taken down, all right? I'm going to redo the video, but I think I know exactly how I'm going to do the video. The video with the Iranian woman and how I exposed all her businesses and everything else. Yeah, I'm going to redo it with a little more information, but I'm going to do it in a little different way, all right? So that way, if they take that video down too, I know for a fact they're watching me. Might be too close, right? But this is Fugitive TV. Please take care of one another. Watch out for your surroundings. Watch and look at your surroundings, okay? Until next time, I'm out.